This podcast is sponsored by the Fireman Moving Company. The Fireman Moving Company is the official moving company of WKU Athletics. Not only can they be trusted to move all the coaches in and out of Western, but they can move you anywhere nationwide. The Fireman Moving Company is owned and operated by firemen and is founded by WKU alumni. If you are looking to move sometime soon, give them a call at 270-791-1755 and get yourself a free quote. Welcome to Topper Talk, your number one Western Kentucky athletics podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Moffitt, and I'm joined by co-host Tyler Bailey. Hilltopper Nation, whether it's happening on the hill or on the road, grab those red towels, stand up and cheer, because it's up next on Topper Talk. Thank you for downloading and listening to another episode of the Topper Talk podcast. We are the official podcast of the Red Towel Trust Collective, and we are a proud member of the College Huddle podcast community. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media accounts and platforms, and head over to our YouTube channel and make sure you subscribe and stay up to date with every new episode that we're dropping. As always, I've got Tyler here with me, man. We've got episode 101 to dive into, man. You ready to get into it?
Always ready to get into it, boy.
But before we do that, we have to get caught up with all the athletic news that we've missed since we last recorded with our Red Towel Wrap-Up, which is brought to us by Trent Bedding Company.
Don't forget your headboards, pillows, and your sheets. We got everything you need for a good night's sleep. Number one on the same check, best of Bowling Green.
All right. Hey! Twins, full, queen and king, mattresses for anything. Come and pick it out and we can bring it to your house. Have you sleeping real good before the weekend's out. Trent Bedding. It's just like a mattress store. Hey.
We also need to have him do a promo for the basketball team and football team. I fully believe that. Former WKU assistant defensive back and Nichols coach Braden Herdick is headed to Colorado State as safeties coach.
Yeah, safe to assume that he's following Coach Summers there, who just recently left to become the defensive coordinator. Obviously getting a little bit of a promotion there, going from an assistant defensive backs coach to being the safeties coach in the secondary. So good opportunity for him. Wish him well at his new stop.
Carson Burgess, he has joined the Western Kentucky football staff as a wide receiver quality control.
Yeah, more talent coming to the hill. We got several guys that we're going to talk about. And one thing that I always am confident in is that Coach Helton is going to bring in some good young talent that is going to have good opportunities in the near future to work their way up the ladder. So welcome to the hill, Carson.
Karan White has joined Western Kentucky football staff as a defensive line graduate assistant.
Yeah, another young coach joining the team, defensive line graduate assistant. Welcome to the hill, Karan.
Matthew Giampa, he's joined Western Kentucky football staff as offensive quality control and assistant QB coach.
Yeah, now he is coming to us from Abilene Christian, so safe to say that he's following soon to be announced offensive coordinator. Not sure why that hasn't happened officially yet, but Rick Bowie, who's coming over, as well as Maverick McIver. So, nice to have some familiar faces in the building for those guys. I'm sure. I think that'll help make the transition easier for all those guys involved. So, welcome to the hill, Coach Giampa.
Baylor, they are targeting our defensive line coach Carson Hall as outside linebacker coach.
Yeah, nothing has officially been announced, but it's been put out there by those college football insiders that they're looking at Coach Hall. Quite frankly, he's been a stud the couple years that he's been here with us. Has a really good background and resume coming from Georgia. He's done a lot of good things here, recruiting wise, and just coaching and developing. And for some reason, the last couple of years, Baylor just likes to target our players and coaches. So I'm not mad at him, but dang, Baylor, look somewhere else. Look in Texas somewhere. But best of luck to Coach Hall whenever that announcement is made official.
Former WKU defensive back Jamar Mundy, he committed to Ohio University.
Yeah, best of luck to Jamar. Getting an opportunity up at Ohio University, maybe going to get some more playing time. Who knows? But the portal taketh away, and that's okay. It just opens the door for more players to be brought in to help improve the team.
And keeping with the football talk, former Hilltopper Tom Ellard, he's participating in the 2025 CFL Specialist Showcase.
Yeah, friend of the podcast, former Hilltopper, and quite frankly, legend Tom Ellard, is putting his hat, trying to go to pros, whether that be the NFL or the CFL or wherever he can land and stick on. And he's getting a chance to showcase his skills there at the uh, Canadian Football League Specialist Showcase, which is probably a pretty big deal for getting your name and your face in front of people that make those decisions. So we obviously wish Tom the best of luck in that.
All right, now we got some WKU football signings. Starting out, wide receiver Matthew Henry, defensive back Braxton Myers, defensive back Javon Mack, defensive line Eric Intini, kicker John Cannon, defensive back Jalen Emery, wide receiver Kelby Williams, offensive line Weston Wallace, offensive line Rylan Shafalo, linebacker Keanan Lofton, defensive line Machiavelli Mulatame, and tight end Trace Patterson.
Yeah, some tough names of some players in there. But if you're keeping up with us on Twitter, on X, whatever you want to call it these days, all of these signings are also have been shared on our page. So, like we said, the portal giveth, it taketh away. Our staff has done a heck of a job adding some really talented looking players, some players that have good experience, good film, good stats at their previous stop. So really excited for what all these guys are going to bring to the team this coming season.
All right, and we're moving on to some non-football talk. West Kentucky Lady Toppers beat Jacksonville State 51-44. Also beat Kennesaw State 72-62.
Yeah, the women kind of pulled the opposite of what normally happens in Conference USA. They went on the road for their road trip, mirroring us when we played Jacksonville State and Kennesaw here at home. They had to go on the road and play those two teams, and they got 2 wins, which, quite frankly, is pretty rare in Conference USA to get that road sweep. So congratulations, Lady Toppers. Love to see it and keep that going.
And we're going to move on to the volleyball team. They announced the signing of Taylor Barron and Kendall Miller.
Yeah, a couple good pickups. I have full faith in Coach Hudson and his eye for talent, and just anybody he brings in. I don't feel like he uses the portal a whole bunch, but I feel like when the opportunity presents itself, go plug some holes, go hit the portal, and we don't lose a lot of players to the portal, which is even better. Usually it's just to eligibility being exhausted. So I'm all for bringing in players. I trust Coach Hudson and what he does and what he builds over there in the volleyball building. So definitely welcome to the Hill to both those ladies.
Sticking with Coach Hudson and the volleyball tree, Pro Top former volleyball coach Jenna Otek made her pro debut and led the Grand Rapid Rise with 12 digs. And then former player Kaylee Cox also made her pro debut and had 10 kills, 1 block, and 9 digs.
Yeah, pretty cool for both those ladies. Jenna is also teammates with Paige Briggs. Obviously, Paige is in her 2nd season in the Professional Volleyball League, but I couldn't find any stats for her. I did go looking on the Grand Rapids Rise website, tried to find stats lines for every player, but couldn't find those. Could only find the leaders in every category. Jenna Otek is their starting libero and led the team with those 12 digs, was a team high. And then Kaylee Cox the very next night made her pro debut and had a pretty solid night. 10 kills, 1 block, and 9 digs is pretty good in her first ever match. So definitely looking forward to keeping up with those ladies as they continue in their professional career.
Western Kentucky softball's Charlotte Herron, she earned a spot on the Softball America freshman watch list.
Yeah, anytime you have a player that is on a watch list, I think that's a pretty special thing. Hasn't played a college softball game yet. The season is, I think, less than a month away now from starting for WKU softball, but it's pretty nice recognition for her to get a national watch list recognition like that. So congratulations to Charlotte.
And I'd just like to point out that I went and watched some of the softball's fall ball schedule. And I mean, them girls have got something special going on over there. It's a great team to go watch. I would encourage everyone to go out and support the baseball and softball teams this upcoming season. Moving on to track and field, they had their first meet at the Rod McCavery Memorial Invitational at UK. Cameron Horton set a personal record and finished 10th in the 600-meter dash at 6.85 seconds. Trevor Hunnell and Wade Balcom finished in the top 10 in the men's mile. Mary Dye set a personal record in the women's 3,000 meter, finishing in 10 minutes and 39 seconds. And you can see the full results can be found on WKUsports.com.
Yeah, like you just said, several of our athletes had personal best and finished in top 10. So really proud of them at a pretty big meet at UK. The first one of the season, probably shaking some rust off, getting back into action, and just too many results and races and throws and jumps and all that stuff to list every single result of every single athlete. So if you want to see it, definitely go check out WKUsports.com. Just go to the track and field on the sports drop down option, and it should be one of the very top linked stories of the invitational results.
And that concludes this week's episode of the Red Tail Wrap Up, brought to you by the Trent Bedding Company. Moff, back to you.
Yeah, always good stuff, man. A lot of, even though we just recorded and uploaded 5 days ago, man, that was a ton of information, just that's happened in a short period of time. And I think that's great that we get to talk about it and share it. Mainly all good news. Losing a couple players and coaches, that stuff's going to happen this time of year, but a lot of good news in there as well. Now we get to talk about some WKU basketball. Last week we talked about the road trip that was and how that fared and splitting that. And this week we're going to talk about the homestand that we just had this last Thursday and Saturday. First, we've got to talk about the game on Thursday to Jacksonville State. Unfortunately, we lost that game 73-67. That loss dropped us to 10-6 overall and 1-2 in conference. The attendance announced for that home game was 2,823 people. I don't get it. Just not a good crowd in number. I know you were there. You can talk about maybe the atmosphere here in just a moment, but this game started out pretty slow. WKU did take a 27-24 lead into half, but Jacksonville State was able to storm back in the second half, and they outscored us 49-40 in the second half, and they got out of Diddle Arena with a victory for Ray Harper, Diet Coke loving Harper mania. Apparently, I don't want to say showed his backside a little bit, but from what I hear, there was a lot of chirping going on during the game with some of the players, some of the student fan section. And then after the game, I guess Harper was happy and elated to finally get that Diddle victory monkey off his back, since I guess it's been 10 years since he had a victory in Diddle Arena. So, Tyler, I guess talk to me a little bit about how that game went. I know you were there. Unfortunately, I wasn't there. I actually was at home in bed sick and not able to attend, as you well know. But it sounds like it's one I'm not mad that I missed and had to sit through, and especially how it ended. So tell us about the game, the atmosphere, the after the game theatrics. Just how was it for you in attendance?
Well, I mean, dude, that both teams shot terrible in the first half. And, I heard people rumbling about it. It's bad if people in the stands are be like, man, it's this team's as cold as the weather outside. The only person that wasn't cold was number 50 for Jacksonville State, and he basically owned the paint that entire night. But Yeah, the crowd was 2,000, and when Western started coming back there in the second half, I think it was Jalen Jackson. He was trying to get the fans into it, waving his arms up, trying to get the fans to come alive, and some did. But I felt like more people than did just kind of sit there and barely made some noise if they did. It was just a hard game to sit through. I mean, our shooting was just cold. And I know we'll go over stats here in a few minutes, but definitely can't be doing that. And then as soon as the game was over, that Pierre guy, he's supposed to be their leading scorer. I think he got into the double figures, not too much though, but he had to end the game on a tomahawk dunk that went down right as a buzzer blew. And then Jacksonville State got up. They were cheering. Happy. Ray Harper was running around like he just won the NCAA tournament. Congratulations, maybe, I guess. Then the Jacksonville State players started talking trash and flipping off the student sections, the band members, people that was over there in that little section sitting close to them. Just didn't look good. Ray Harper, he has a track record of some of the players that he recruits being not the most upstanding citizens. And, I guess that really showed Jacksonville State's character and who they are. But, he was running around. You could tell he was excited. But, dude, act like you've won a game before. I know you didn't make many friends that was there in the building that night and probably heard about what happened. And then I was sitting down there listening to the coach's show at the end of the game. And, Hank Plone is down there talking to Randy Lee and Hal Smith. Ray Harper comes down there, and they're literally maybe 8 to 10 feet apart. Ray Harper does not turn to look anywhere. Like you could tell he was purposely avoiding looking to his left and looking down there at Hank Plone. He was looking he was looking down to his right. He was looking down to his left, down towards the empty seats. And, he was just talking to their radio guy. But, he hopefully he knows that he pissed a lot of people off by allowing his team to do that. I know he liked it here, but dude, you definitely didn't. You ran some people away that may had supported you. I feel like you definitely distanced yourself that night.
Yeah, win with class, like you said. Act like you've been there before. Act like you've won a ball game before. That. I guess that was their Super Bowl. I don't know. Maybe they're still happy from beating us in football at the end of the season. I don't know. Apparently I saw people on Twitter saying we have beef. I was like, we don't have. I mean, you beat us with 2 players down. Congratulations. Babacar is in that game and or Teagan. You're taking an L, but congratulations, I guess. Let's talk about some of these stat leaders for the game. Enoch Kalambe finished with a game high of 24 points and also added 5 rebounds. Julius Dedford had 17 points and 4 rebounds. And then Tyrone Marshall was our leading rebounder. He had 8 rebounds and also chipped in 5 points. Looking at the team stats, you mentioned both teams shooting cold in that first half. WKU ended the game at 32.8% field goals. So they just stayed cold. And Jacksonville State was at 44.4%. WKU shot 8 out of 26 from 3, which is 30.8%. Jacksonville State was 3 out of 20, good for only 15%. Looking at free throws, WKU was 17 out of 21 for 81%. Jacksonville State was 14 out of 20 for 70. Rebound margin, this is the ugly one. WKU 30, Jacksonville State 50. So we're at a minus 20 deficit on the rebound margin. That's tough. With or without Babacar Faye. I mean, that is an effort stat. That's a hustle stat. That's one that, we have to do better at, going forward in every game. If we want to keep it close and competitive, you can't get out rebounded by 20 because those rebounds are leading to, either possessions going the other way or second shots going up. So, that one's tough. To me, that's, almost exhibit A, what I would circle why we lost that game. Not only cold shooting, but minus 20 rebounds. That's tough. Some bright news, I guess. Turnovers, we finished with 2 for the game. And Jacksonville State finished with 9. So a really low turnover game. Maybe one of the lowest I've ever seen in all the years I've been doing basketball game recaps. I don't remember many in the single digits, and especially below 5. So 2 turnovers for the entire game. I hope that's something that we can continue and try to repeat. I don't expect 2 every game, but if we're below 10, I think that gives us a pretty good chance, or a better chance, at staying competitive and possibly winning the game. So, Tyler, what are your thoughts on some of these stat leaders and team stats for this game?
It was great to see Enoch come out the way he did, man. Because he's kind of been there. He's definitely added to as he's been on the court. But to see him come out and 24 points, he was getting rebounds. Thedford was doing Thedford things. He just kept that train rolling. I thought our team had some bright spots. The one spot that was blaring was in the post. Like I said, 50 for Jacksonville. He had 20. He had 20 points. Also had 12 rebounds. They had 12 offensive rebounds. We had 5. That's not going to win you any games if you're giving them that many extra points. And then, yes, we hit 8 threes and we only limited them to 3 threes. But it was just some second chance points. Points in the paint, we got outscored 34-24. Fouls, they had 16, we had 18. We did have 6 steals, so we turned them over. We got 6 steals out of it. 10 assists to their 11. And I was listening to Randy on the way home, and he said the last 4 games that we lost. I'm sorry. I didn't talk to you, sir. The last 4 games that we lost the last 3 or 4. And in those 3 losses, we were out rebounded by 61 combined rebounds. That's just a horrible stat. Like I said last episode, that's just a hustle stat. It's who wants it more, and clearly, the opposite teams have. But I mean, that's and something else is whenever we were in the second half, the last time we scored was in one stretch, we had a scoring drought. We scored with 8 minutes and 53 seconds left in the second half. We did not hit a field goal again until 3 minutes and 11 seconds left in the second half. We hit some free throws, but we missed everything we shot from the field. With a team that's hungry and wanting to beat you, you can't do that. You can't have a 5-minute stretch of nothing there, especially in the second half in a close game. When points are at a premium, you can't come up short. But, we did, and we ended up losing that game. But it's just something that we had to get. We have to work at rebounding. We have to work at getting shots to fall. Take that lid off the bucket. Because that, I guess, FIU game that affected us. And we just can't do that. Coming down these stretches of these conference games, that if you want to lose the conference championship or lose during the tournament, have the scoring droughts.
Yeah, 5-minute scoring drought. I mean, that the timestamps that you referenced there, I mean, that's through 2 media timeouts. That's the under 8 and the under 4 media timeout, before you scored again. So that's rough. And that kind of leads us right into our grades for that game. So what is your grade for the offense versus Jacksonville State?
I'm going to have to – it's a cold night. I'm going to have to go with I'll go with a D on it.
Yeah, if your shooting percentage starts with a 3, it's probably going to be a D. So, I mean, that's pretty plain and simple. Not making buckets, not making shots wherever it is, from 3, from 2, 30, 30-ish percentage field goals. That's a D. Any way you shake it, we lost the game. If we somehow found a way to pull out and win that game down the stretch and was still in that range, I might have given them a C. But in a loss, you're getting a D for sure. What about your grade for the defense?
I mean, the rebounds by itself, getting that rebound by 20, losing the points in the paint by 10. Now, granted, we did hold their star player to 12 points, but I think their whole starting 4, their starting 5 had 20, 14, 10, 12. Defense was very lackluster, so I'm going to give them a D as well.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. The out rebounding, the points in the paint, did create some turnovers, like you mentioned earlier. It's nice to see that. But getting out rebounded, I mean, defensive rebounds, if they out rebounded us by 7 on the offensive side, I think you said, then that means they out rebounded us by 13 on the defensive side. So, that's just defensive rebounding that we have to do better at. So, defense gets a D for me as well. What about your grade for coaching?
Coaching, when we had 2 post players, one that's definitely not hurt. I think he had 3 blocks this game. But we also have, but he puts Enoch and Tyrell Marshall down there to play as post players. They're not strictly post players. They're very undersized, especially Marshall. And yes, and I'd say Enoch is too, but he's trying to work with what he has to put the best product out there on the court. He did swap it up a little bit, or he did swap up defenses a little bit. But at the end of the day, I mean, he was hurt by this. I saw during the coach's show, he was very disappointed with the outcome with the team. And I can tell you this loss really hurt him. But with that being said, I guess I'll have to go with a D for him as well.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Coaches get the praise and the glory if you win, and they get the criticism if they lose. So, I don't think that this will be a reoccurring theme. I think Coach Plona's, like you said, he's dealing with the hand he's been dealt at the moment with injuries, etc. I think he's a fine coach. I think he's going to do well at Western Kentucky in the long run. But for what it is right now, obviously not the best effort on the court that night. So I'm going to go with the D as well. What about your overall grade?
That's going to be throw some D's up on it. To quote the late 2000 songs, mid 2000 songs.
Yeah, pretty much a clean sweep there. D for me as well. Bad loss, one that we, I would rather win that game against Ray. There's a couple games if I had to schedule or got to pick on the schedule who we beat, Ray is definitely one we would always beat. Hate to lose that one, but it is what it is. We turn the page and we talk about the game on Saturday where we hosted Kennesaw State. The announced attendance was 3,047 people for that game, so a little bit better after the snowy Friday that we had. WKU was able to pull away for an 85-69 win that game. That moved us to 11-6 overall with a 2-2 record in Conference USA play. Tyler, what were your thoughts on the game versus Kennesaw State?
Well, I feel like this was a great rebounding game for us. I got to watch it and listen to it. I sadly didn't get to make it up there for that game. But I felt like the team finally got their head on straight. Coach probably had some words of encouragement for them. Thursday evening, probably got back to work on Friday, and definitely had them locked in for this game because he definitely don't want to lose against a newcomer to the conference. So this game, the team played a whole lot better, shot a whole lot better. And it was good to see him get that win there in Diddle.
Yeah, like you said, this is one of those games against the newcomers where I really didn't know a lot of what to expect out of Kennesaw State. one thing that I knew in previewing them was they had a really good freshman in Adrian Woolley, who was every bit as advertised in that game. He's a solid player, solid contributor for that team. And they feel like they might just be a year or two away from just getting a little bit more experience or adding a piece or two, and being really good in Conference USA. So just another example of, in my opinion, a good addition to this league, for competitive sakes, and especially looking at the basketball side of things, as we speak. Looking at some of the stat leaders for this game, this was a Tyrone Marshall coming out party. Nice to see him. 20 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. Enoch Kalambe stayed hot, 19 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. Don McHenry added 16 points and 5 rebounds. And then Christian Lander added 14 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists to round out our double-digit scores. And then looking at the team stats for the game, field goal percentage, WKU shot 42.6%, so better than last game for sure. And we held Kennesaw State to 32.9%. Like to see that. 3-point percentage, WKU was 11 out of 26. That's 42.3%. And Kennesaw State was 8 out of 41. Free throws, we shot 22 out of 31, good for 71%, while Kennesaw State was 15 out of 23, good for only 65.2%. And then that hustle, that effort stat that we've talked about the last couple games, rebounds, WKU 44, Kennesaw State 45. So kept that margin, just to -1. Love to see that, basically a clean sweep on all the stats there, for the team, just the head-to-head, how we did versus them. Love to see that. Obviously, Tyler, does any of these player stats or team stats jump out at you?
Yeah, I mean, if you look, Jacksonville State, we were shooting 32%. We knocked that up 10 points, or 10 percentage. 3-point. When's the last time we hit more than we hit double-digit 3-point shots in a game? I can't remember, but it was good to see us be able to start hitting from deep. We finally got to the free throw line on a lot more, getting 31 chances and knocking down 22 of them. I'll take that. We still got out rebounded by 1, but at least it's not 20 or 15, 25 like it was in the previous games. So I'll take all of that. You're right, and it was good seeing Marshall come out and do what he do. I feel like he can be a special player. He has the build. I feel like he has the ability. If he can get past his man, he can make some highlight plays. And it was great seeing Enoch, second game in a row, having a big game, flirting with a double-double. Don, Jacksonville State game wasn't his best one, but this one he wanted to come back, and he did. And Christian Lander, it was good to see him be able to get back up there on the box scores as well. That's something else. We shouldn't be getting that rebound that much, especially when our guards are going in, and our guards can rebound, especially Thedford, Bayless, Don. They're all aggressive guards, and they can pull down the rebound. So it's not just landing on the post players or the 3, 4, and 5 guys. 1 and 2 can go down there and easily grab them and just get out and go with it. And that could lead to fast break points. But I feel like these stats are great. I feel like the team played awesome.
Yeah, and that leads us right into the grades for this game, which I feel like will be a lot more friendly than the Jacksonville State game. So what is your grade for the offense versus Kennesaw State?
Offense, I'm going to give him an A in this one. Played great, and like I said, it was so great to see them be able to hit from deep again.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think they get an A, definitely much improved, needed victory. Definitely can't come in to your home stand and lose both games. So definitely like to see that uptick in what we saw in production. So A for me as well. What about your grade for the defense?
Defense, and you hold them to 19 and a half 3-point percentage, that right there will win you a whole lot of games. It's just amazing to me that they shot 41 threes. And then you hold them field goal 32%. Hell yeah. I mean, that's right there. Just it says it. And we was able to hold them 24 points in the paint, while we got 28. I mean, I'll give defense an A as well, and we hold them to less sub 70 points. So A for sure.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Defense gets an A for me. Hold them to into 30% shooting, just like we said for our effort last game. That's not good, but when you do it to someone else, hey, that's great. We love to see that. So defense gets an A for me. What about your grade for the coaches?
Like I said, I feel like the coach probably had them locked in, had them dialed in. He was probably like, guys, we can't keep doing this. Let's go there, get your butt in somebody, box them out, get the rebounds, and go with it. And he was swapping up some defenses, like I said in the previous games. And he knew he wanted to get this win, and I felt like he pushed the team to get it. And for that, coaching gets an A as well.
Yeah, coaching gets an A for me. Just solid effort. Coaching obviously looks a lot better when shots are going in. So just keep doing what you're doing, Coach Plone. I think we all understand the injury issues right now, the injury bugs. We all hope Babacar comes back real soon. But we can still play good basketball, even missing Baba. So definitely an A earned for me as well. And what about your overall grade versus Kennesaw State?
Just like I wish my high school report card said, A's, 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 and A's.
Yeah, pretty short and sweet on that one as well. Great victory, good margin, good defense, good offense. Definitely an A for me as well. Pretty much a clean sweep there. Now we turn our attention to the 100 Miles of Hate preview coming up. That game is this coming Saturday, January 18th. It is at 6 p.m. at the Murphy Center in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. The game will be on ESPN Plus. And I would be remiss if I don't mention that the women's version of the 100 Miles of Hate is playing at 2 p.m. at Diddle Arena. So logistically, you could get to the women's game, watch it from 2 to 4 ish. Then when that game ends, you could get to Murfreesboro by 5:30 ish and be there before tip off at 6. I'm not a big fan of the mirrored scheduling, but these games being staggered to where one's early, one's late, you could theoretically, technically make both of them if you want to. Should be a good women's game. Middle's always good in women's basketball. We know our women's basketball team is improved and playing better, so that will be a tough matchup. But the men's game, we're looking forward to a battle, and we've already posted on social media. We are hoping to have a Topper Toots takeover at 3:30 to about 5:30. Gives you time to pay and leave and get to the arena at the Broad Street location. That's the Toots restaurant on Broad Street. Show up, wear red. There will be blue in there. There always is. But there's always a lot of red in there as well. And I figured if we just put it out there, got some Hilltoppers interested. I know we all miss Toots Restaurant being in Bowling Green. It does have a special place in my heart. That's where I met my wife. And, anytime I go to Murfreesboro, we are going to Toots Restaurant. Tyler, I know me and you and Jepson last year, we went pregame and postgame. That's how much we miss it. We went twice. Might not do that this year. I mean, unless wife wants to. If she wants to go after the game, I'll do a Topper Toots takeover after the game as well. But definitely before the game, if you are a Hilltopper fan and you're listening, join us at the Toots on Broad Street at 3:30. Be there, wear red, be loud. There will be Tops chants. There will be TOPS chants in the Toots. I'm ready. Let's fire it up. Now looking at the teams, WKU comes into the game 11-6 overall. We are 2-2 in conference play. MTSU is 12-5 overall with a 3-1 record in conference play. The ESPN matchup predictor really likes MTSU to win this game. They gives them a 70.6% chance to win compared to only 29.4% for Western Kentucky. And I know we all remember the last time we played down there in Murfreesboro with the the timeout that wasn't the jump ball, that wasn't the technical foul for calling a timeout with no timeouts left. That wasn't. They called a jump ball instead. Middle got out of there with the victory that they shouldn't have. Should have been us shooting technical free throws. But I digress. It is what it is. I think everybody that was in that arena knows what the heck. What kind of home cooking was that? It was crazy. I think we got a little payback though. About a week later, we got to see them down in the Conference USA tournament in Huntsville after they had beaten the number 1 seed Louisiana Tech. And then we turn around and give them a 41-point just butt kicking and obliterating. Just killed them. Sent them back home. Enjoy the drive back to Murfreesboro. And that's what this rivalry is. Every game is going to be physical. We don't like each other. It's called 100 Miles of Hate for a reason. I'll be friendly and respectful off the court, but in between the lines and when the game tips off, we want to beat you. And more times than not, we do beat them. If you look at the basketball series record, I think we have 99 total wins to their 53, just off the top of my head. And then on the football side of things, we've taken the lead over the last 3 years. I think we're 3 games up in the overall lead now in football. So, we expect to go down there, even though it's tough to win on the road in Conference USA. We're not going to be favored. We're going to be a 6 or 7 point underdog. ESPN matchup doesn't like us to win, and we're injured. We're not going in there healthy, but anything can happen in this rivalry game. So we got to tip the ball off, see what happens, and hopefully play our best ball to try to steal a victory in Murfreesboro. Tyler, what are your thoughts on this rivalry and just, how it feels to get ready, go back to Toots, and hopefully beat the Blue Raiders again?
Well, it'll feel good to go back Toots, and this rivalry is absolutely awesome. I hate them. I hate everything about them. I hate the glass house, poverty university down there. Toots should move back to Bowling Green. If you really want to make money, move it on back to Bowling Green, Kentucky. We'll accept you with open arms, Toots. But it was a great time going down there with you last year, me, you, Jepson. We sat next to OG. He lied to us about his player. He's like, oh, he don't shoot threes. Yeah, he did. I'm surprised Giddy Potts still ain't on the team. He was there for I guess ever since I was in 6th grade up until a few years ago. He finally was able to graduate. Says a lot about their academic institution or whatever. But this game will be a hard fight, not just because it's on the road, but because of the rivalry aspect of it. You could, take the stat book, take the records, and just throw them out the windows. That's what they say. And in this rivalry, that definitely can and does happen. Anything can happen. Last year, there's no way they should have won that game. But I will take the revenge game and over that win down there at the Murph. But no, I'm excited. There's a good chance I'm going to get to go down there and enjoy the Topper Takeover. Now let's go down there and show them how basketball's played.
Absolutely. Let's, taking a quick look at their roster. Their leading scorer is returning guard Justin Porter. He is number 3. He's averaging 15.6 points per game. Their leading rebounder is Isam Mustafa. He's number 44. He's a transfer from TCU. He's averaging 8.8 rebounds per game to go along with 13.6 points per game. And then their leading assist man is Jalen Counter. He is number 2. He's a transfer from IU Indianapolis. He averages 3.2 assists per game, as well as 10.5 points per game and 3.6 rebounds per game. So he does a little bit of everything. And to learn even more about this year's Middle Tennessee squad and preview this 100 Miles of Hate matchup, I was joined by Jake Bolden over from the Blue Raider podcast to talk about this year's team and what to expect. Let's go to that interview right now. All right, and I'm joined by Jake Bolden. He is a friend of the show, and he's the host of the Blue Raider podcast. He's also a member of the Conference USA Roundtable, and he's a member of the College Huddle podcast community. Jake, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Steven. Thanks for having me as always.
Man, we have to dive into this big 100 Miles of Hate matchup, man. It's going to be a fun or a tough game, however you want to look at it. I guess it depends on your perspective and how it ends out, but before we jump into that, I want to talk a little bit about last season and just how things went for the Blue Raiders and the Nick McDevitt in particular. I think it was definitely safe to say that it was a rough patch for Coach McDevitt, but I think the health of your team and the roster was the major factor in that underachieving season. And then I think when you top it all off with the way your season ended, with that really bad loss, I would say in Huntsville to us. There was a lot of rumblings, if you put your ear close enough to the ground, even from here in Bowling Green, Kentucky, that maybe Coach McDevitt doesn't return to Murfreesboro. But that decision was obviously made to keep him. And this season so far, through an early sample size now, into conference play, it looks like the Blue Raiders have turned things around, have added some good pieces, and obviously have gotten healthy and are definitely pointed in the right direction. So I guess first off, give me just your perspective on how the fan base felt about keeping Coach McDevitt around for another season after last year.
I think you put that loss in the Conference USA tournament a little too nicely there. It was more than just a bad loss. It was outright humiliating is the way I would describe it. And
my notes said obliterated, and I tuned it down a notch just to be respectful.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think one thing about Coach McDevitt, and one that our relationship, myself as, I guess, a journalist with the podcast, has kind of grown a little bit stronger with him and I, is that he doesn't shy away from what happened last season. A roller coaster, to say the least. Had some injuries, but I don't know that he'd ever really used that as much of a crutch as maybe I would give him. And certainly the fan base, to answer your question, didn't give him the benefit of the doubt when it came to those injuries. And we're kind of seeing the fruit of his labors this offseason with the transfer portal grow to what this team has been. It's obviously, we had a great non-conference slate, very tough for this team, and they came out on top with 9 wins, something that we're very proud of for good reason. But then as we've gotten into conference play, I wouldn't say that we faced any cupcakes by any stretch of the imagination. And yet right now we're sitting at 3-1 in second place. But to go back on where Murfreesboro is in regards to Coach McDevitt, there still is a little bit of a gray area when you talk about the alumni, the community around Murfreesboro. A lot of us that are close are really excited. And I'm afraid that a lot of those that have distanced themselves because of the up and down paths of Nick McDevitt's tenure haven't really bought in necessarily to what this team is. And this Saturday may be a great opportunity for them to actually buy into what he is selling this season. When it comes down to it, when you go to the offseason, and what our AD Chris Massaro said to a lot of the donors was that we're going to stick with McDevitt, albeit a lot of things considered. And really that Western Kentucky game is really what put his career kind of in a blender, because you win a big game against the number 2 overall seed Louisiana Tech, who we all assumed was going to be conference champions. You go into a rival with Western, a team that you just beat last week, whether for good reasons or not, but you think you have yourself a good opportunity to win that game and to go back on it obliterated, to use your terminology. And I think that's fair. But all things considered, his tenure here was kind of in limbo all off season. And then he put out a letter to BRAA members saying, we're going to stick with McDevitt. We believe in what he can do in this transfer portal. And he did just that. We have a lot of guys that have done us very well, as I'm sure we'll get deeper into some of those players upcoming in this preview. But collectively, those that are close to the program, I have a lot of faith in Coach McDevitt. I always have, given that he was kind of left with, I would say, bad circumstances. Kermit Davis did great things for this program, but when you throw in what happened to the roster immediately after he left for Ole Miss, and then, of course, you have COVID season, we finally put a good roster together in 21-22, and we saw what that season brought for Conference USA collectively as a whole, and now we're kind of getting – it feels like that 21-22 season all over again in Murfreesboro. And like I said, those of us that are close to the program are really excited for good reason.
Yeah, as you should be. I mean, yeah, like you said, your non-conference slate was pretty tough. You came out, we won a lot of games, 9 games, like you said. Currently 12-5 overall and 3-1 in Conference USA play, like you stated. I think it's safe to say that's a phenomenal start, especially coming off where you were last year. the uneasiness of the fan base and just how the season before ended. What would you say were the expectation of this year's team before the season started?
A lot of them were, again, in that gray area because I myself am one that's having to sell a lot of fans that may not know any of these faces because they're all new, right? We're not having too much roster turnover as far as the core goes, except Justin Porter, who entered the portal. You graduated some of your top talent in Elias King. Jared Coleman-Jones is now starting for San Diego State, a team that was in the top 25. So your two best players are in the portal. You pick up 5-6 guys, and it's kind of all this questionable, where is this team? And then Justin Porter decides to come back. And then you start to think, okay, maybe there's something brewing. Then you look at the conference slate in particular, the non-conference slate in particular, and collectively, it's a strong mid-major non-conference. You have a lot of preseason favorites on there. You get a couple of those wins, and things start to kind of pick up and move. You get some momentum moving towards where this team is at. So, as far as the expectations for this season, I think a lot of us thought maybe 500 through the non-conference is what maybe we've been acclimated to given the season we had in the past. And a lot of guys you just didn't know anything about and how they play with this given schedule. Well, getting to 8 wins was my mark. I thought this team was talented enough to get to 8 wins. They were able to get to 9 wins, so I guess they exceeded that expectation. And again, a lot of these teams that we faced maybe weren't necessarily to the eye that good, but we've seen what they've kind of devolved into, like the Ohios and the South Floridas and the UABs and even Lipscomb for that matter. Those are some big wins that, again, if you don't know college basketball, that doesn't really get you up out of bed. But if you watch college basketball closely enough, you know how good those wins are. And you led the number 1 team at that time in the country in Tennessee at halftime. You played a solid 30 minutes there in Knoxville. So there's a lot to. Again, the expectations were low. He's exceeded those, and he's still delivering now that we've gotten into conference play. And again, I hope, as a guy I consider myself a McDevitt apologist, I hope that we continue to see things move in that direction as conference play gets deeper and deeper.
Yeah, I think you kind of touched on a perfect segue into my next question because you talked about adding, those 4, 5, 6 new guys. So, tell the Hilltopper listeners about some of those newcomers to the MTSU roster that have contributed so far to this early season success.
Yeah, there's again, and I will forgive any of those guys that may be listening to this to leaving any of them out because it feels like they're all important in their own little way, and there really hasn't been an addition that we haven't necessarily seen contribute. The one that will stand out, at least on paper in the box score, is going to be Isam Mustafa, a guy that transferred. He's the 5 from TCU, played significant minutes for the Horned Frogs last season, but most that know basketball will know him from his time at Coastal Carolina, where he averaged a double-double on a nightly basis for the Chanticleers. But now here in Murfreesboro, he's doing much of the same. He's a guy that is going to probably by season's end average a double-double. He's already nearing that mark now. I believe the last time I checked, he's leading Conference USA with 8 double-doubles through the season. So a guy that scores very well close to the rim, but just has this natural competitiveness to want to get every single rebound, and it matters to him. And double-doubles do matter. I know his last 2 games, he's finished the game with 9. He's talked to the SID saying, hey, can you give me another rebound somewhere in there? So the rebounds matter to Isam, and it certainly shows in his natural competitive behavior. Jalen Counter, J-Rock, as he's known around here, is a guy that came from IUPUI, a program that is not known for their basketball play by any stretch of the imagination, and was one of the guys, the first pickup actually in the portal, that let us all roll our eyes a little bit about who is this guy. We're getting him from the worst team in the country. There's no way this is a good pickup. This is the portal season we were supposed to be expecting. But I actually watched some tape on Jalen Counter, and the kid did everything at IUPUI. When it's a one-man show on an already bad basketball team, a lot of that stuff will get clouded and covered up by turnover numbers because a lot of that team ran a 5-out system, where now here he gets to play with a team that has scores or surrounding him. And we've seen a lot of that. He had 9 assists on Saturday against Jacksonville State to 1 turnover. And that's just kind of the game he has. He has the ability. We've seen him this season score in double figures numerous times, but really his game is more of that 5 to 6 points with 5 to 6 assists a night. Very low turnover numbers. Very pleased with his game. And as I've spoken with McDevitt, he was way better than advertised, which has gone a long ways because of where we were last year without a backup point guard. He's even moved himself into that starting role, taking over that starting role from Cam Weston, who, as we already know, is a Conference USA preseason first teamer. So a guy that's a nobody taking a first teamer starting spot shouldn't go unnoticed. Another guy that is considered a newcomer but was on the bench last year as a redshirt is Torrey Alston. He's taken the starting spot the last 3 games because of Kamari Land's injury, who's another addition that we may be touching on here shortly. But again, another guy that just has the Teophile Leonard, for those that know MTSU basketball past 2 years ago, a guy that could fly out of the gym. And Alston, as a redshirt freshman, has the same level of ability defensively as well as high flying ability that Leonard had, except with a little bit better IQ and less of a hothead, which always goes a lot further when talk about minutes played. But Alston is a guy that I am really impressed with in the early going. Much like you talked about in our episode with Thedford, just a guy that kind of, I won't say reckless abandonment, but a guy that has a level of confidence that is admirable for a freshman, and he plays with it on a nightly basis. And I look forward, again, to seeing how he grows up in blue. The guy that was starting in the 4th spot was Kamari Lands, a transfer from Arizona State, a guy that's bounced around the college ranks, spent freshman year at Louisville, then went to Arizona State, and now he's in Murfreesboro. He's a guy that is a shooter, and that's kind of what he has been brought into Murfreesboro to do, is to be that 3-point threat. He scored 19 points earlier this season against Murray State. He has flashes of this scoring ability. He's the one that forced overtime against Ohio in our MTE earlier in the season at Coastal Carolina. So he's a guy that has that big playability from beyond the 3-point line, but he's currently dealing with a lower body injury, so we don't know his status in regards to this game this Saturday, but he's a guy that does provide a lot of spacing on the floor. And again, just to save face from talking all this time about all these additions, you got other guys like Christian Fussell, who's been on the team in the past, but is playing in mostly a limited role for us. And again, I feel like I'm missing somebody, but when I look at the roster here, that's everybody. And that really is the bulk of this team. But if I can say anything about them collectively, it just adds the depth that this team was clearly missing last season. And we were able to replace the big man that you lost in the portal. So I think you come out at worst net even, but the depth has grown exponentially. And as you'll see on Saturday, the backcourt has just gotten better to match up with a lot of the good backcourts in this conference, like the Lamar Wilkersons or the Western Kentucky Don McHenrys. And now you got Thedford, and you can just see where this team just has finally kind of got a roster to match Conference USA.
Yeah, definitely a lot of depth, and they've all seemed to be add 2 pieces that are helping that team win a lot of ball games. You talked about a score on that team, and we have to talk about the freshly anointed Conference USA Player of the Week, Justin Porter. Seems to be playing at a really high level right now. I'm sure it's nice to have his running mate, Cam Weston, back on the court with him, even though it sounds like not starting the last couple games, as you just said. But how have those two fared together, getting to be actually on the court together this season?
Yeah, Porter getting Weston back was, I would have to imagine was a part of the pitch, because Weston never entered the portal. We thought maybe he would because of his level of talent, and obviously he has some good film before his injury. But to have him back with Porter has been amazing, to say the least. Porter actually, going into this game on Saturday, scored 27 and 29 points to earn him Conference USA Player of the Week, as you mentioned. But prior to that, against Liberty, he scored 0 points, and then against FIU he scored 11 points. So actually he took it this week a little bit personal, as he said, spent more time in the gym, and it showed with 28 points in these last 2 games and off to a phenomenal shooting start. So you hope he doesn't cool off over the week as you head into that game. Cameron Weston, on the other hand, a guy that we've seen him score at will at times this season. I know he has 30 points. He set himself a career high against Lipscomb. And even against Tennessee, we think he might have he worked himself into a handshake deal with Rick Barnes after a performance like that. So you hope, again, another guy that sticks around. But Cam Weston has been an elite piece starting for us. Jalen Counter kind of took away some starting time with him because of just his play. I think what Counter provides at the point guard position is more of what I would assume the archetype of a point guard that McDevitt likes, where he kind of has a pass first mentality, can score when he needs to, but Weston provides those same skill types. So don't be surprised on this Saturday if you see a lineup where those 3 guards are all featured at one time. They're a little bit smaller, but they play with that up tempo pace that I know McDevitt likes. And again, it can be challenging in transition for teams to face.
Yeah, I think we should match up well in that regard because, as you well know, we've been playing without our starting big man in Babacar Faye for almost a month now. And like we said on your episode of the show, as of right now, we have no, clear path to when he's coming back. We're not sure when or if that's going to happen. If he comes back this Saturday, that would be a great boost, a great lift. But I think, that big man situation is probably most concerning for Western fans right now, because we've seen it hurt us in matchups with other teams that have true bigs. And when you talk about players like Isam Mustafa, one of the top rebounders in the conference, and then I clearly remember Chris Loof coming off the bench last year as a solid freshman, and I'm sure he's taken a step this season to get better. How are those guys, those bigs, or any other guys helping impact games for MTSU?
Well, Mustafa himself, kind of one thing that was interesting about his recruitment, he coming here to us from TCU, was the type of player that he is. One thing that we've always seen with McDevitt's teams is he likes a center that can handle the basketball, like the DeAndre Dishmans of the world, like Jared Coleman-Jones. Mustafa is just not that guy. He's kind of a banger down low. He will get his touches at the top of the key, but that's just not really his style. So one thing about him in particular, like I've already said, is just how athletic he can be, as well as strong of a rebounder as he is. So if he's not necessarily putting points in the bucket, he's a guy that's going to give his team extra opportunities on the offensive glass. Chris Loof, All-CUSA freshman team last year, is taking those strides. The one thing about his game that we were hoping to see him advance this season is on the offensive side of the ball. He gets a little deer in the headlights, as most freshmen would. And maybe if you've seen him, hasn't quite grown into his body that freshman year. Well, he had a great off season with our new strength conditioning coach. He kind of has filled out that frame a little bit and is a lot more physical. We see it as evidenced by his block rate has continued to go up this year. So he has the presence as being the tallest guy on the floor for us at 6'11", and presumably the tallest guy on the floor this Saturday as well. So that's kind of been a big piece for us as a guy off the bench with Mustafa. They are kind of a 1-2 punch there at the 5 spot. You're never going to find them on the floor at the same time, which I think would be interesting in some lineups, but not this one in particular. But Loof is always a threat on the defensive side. Once he kind of gets the offense figured out, he's had the butterfingers these last couple of weeks. The turnover numbers are a little higher than you'd like for them to be, but I still tell myself he's a sophomore. He's still learning. So I still want to see that side of his game continue to step up. And Torrey Alston, as we touched on earlier, a guy that's been playing exclusively the 4 spot with Kamari Lands out with an injury, a guy that offensively has a skill. I know in some preseason scrimmages, he's put up some double-digit figures, something that, again, has really impressed us as a guy that was just going to be redshirted, kind of be a role player for us. But maybe he's taken a page out of Kamari Lands' book as a scorer. He hit 1-for-1 3-pointers on Thursday, which we didn't really know was in his arsenal. But the free throw shooting continues to be an issue for him. So, again, if you're Western Kentucky, that might be on your scouting report is you might hack an Alston, if you will, as he struggled at the free throw line. But he still is a strong competitor, great at creating second chance opportunities, and look forward to, again, his growth along with Loof as a dynamic duo in the front court for Conference USA years to come.
Yeah, all 3 of those guys worry me. A lot of size, a lot of big bodies, and it's going to be tough matchups for us. You mentioned Jared Coleman-Jones twice, and I know he's gone. I know he's at San Diego State. I wasn't sad to see him leave because I still have flashback memories of him stepping out and making 3 or 4 3-pointers last year in our game. It felt like he almost single-handedly beat us with that unexpected shooting. He made his first one, and I turned to a guy sitting beside us. I said, "Can he do that?" And he was like, "No." And then he turned around and made 2 or 3 more in pretty short order. And I was like, I think this guy was leading me on over here. But yeah, you definitely have some solid bigs that are going to be matchup nightmares for us. Whereas I think on the guard side, we match up pretty well. Speaking about last year's game, I think everyone remembers how intense that game, how it ended with the controversial call, no call, timeout, jump ball, technical, whatever you want to call it. It was a jump ball, I guess is what it was. So, fully expecting this year's matchup to have a little bit of that edge to it, that chippiness to it. And I fully expect MTSU to be, a 6.5, 7-point favorite in this matchup whenever that, betting line comes out, if you're into that sort of thing. But coming into this game, what would you say are the keys to victory for MTSU to get this win at home?
Well, as we just talked about, it's going to be the front court. The one thing that about when you look at Western's box scores of their losses as of recently at FIU and then the Jacksonville State game was they got dominated on the glass. If MTSU, and one thing that they are particularly good at in relation to Conference USA is they are a very good rebounding team because of the guys I've mentioned, and Mustafa and Alston, and even our guards do a pretty good job of rebounding themselves. But you're going to have to win this game on the glass. You don't give yourself an opportunity, because when you talk about giving a team that can shoot the ball as well as Western Kentucky can at times, as well as a team that plays at such a quick tempo, you can't allow those second scoring opportunities like they do. And I will even give a preview about a little bit about the UTEP team that both of us will see later this season. They're a team that has thrived on the turnover because it gives them a second chance opportunity. And when you give opponents an extra 10, 15 field goal attempts per game, that's a recipe for disaster. So I think that's going to be your first and foremost a clear path to victory. I don't like using clear path to victory in a game like this, but if you win the rebounding edge, that's going to be key number one. And then my second key to the game is going to be limiting Don McHenry. In our games last year where Western Kentucky won, that includes in Bowling Green and in the Conference USA tournament, he averaged 20 points per game. In the game that you won in Murfreesboro, he scored 11. That's certainly not a coincidence. I know that McHenry is going to be shooting a lot if Phi is out of this game. So you have to hope that you have to find a way to limit him, make someone else on this roster beat you. I know Julius Thedford's a guy that I have my eyes on as a Conference USA all-freshman team. I think, as you saw this last week with Kennesaw State and Adrian Woolley, I think he's going to kind of run away with Freshman of the Year. But if it wasn't for Woolley, Thedford would be my second vote right now. But and to take it back to your point, the backcourt is kind of where we're evenly matched. So if you're able to limit those talented guards of Western Kentucky, particularly McHenry, and make someone else beat you at the 3-point line, those are kind of the areas that I've seen as far as weaknesses or an opportunity for MTSU to give themselves a better chance on Saturday.
Absolutely, man. Jake, as always, I love your content and everything that you do over there at the Blue Raider podcast. I think MTSU fans are lucky to have someone like you that spends as much time putting out the content that you do. And I can't wait to listen to the full preview episode that I was able to hop on with you. Be sure and let everybody know where they can find your content, because I hope that they'll slide over to your page and your channel and check out the preview from your scope.
Absolutely. And I like to say this because I know a lot of our fans have crossover from travel time this Saturday as they go from Bowling Green and Murfreesboro, hopefully to make both those games and make great atmospheres at both of those arenas on Saturday. So if you're not already at Blue Raider Pod, we're on all of your favorite social media, Twitter, X, Instagram. Of course, we're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And of course, we have a visual presentation, much like the Topper Talk, on YouTube. So of course, tune in over there. We always appreciate listeners over there. But short preview on all things MTSU throughout the season. And of course, a great breakdown from yours truly, Stephen Moffitt, over there as well. So look forward to this Saturday. And Stephen, I really appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. It's been my pleasure. Looking forward to maybe linking up in Murfreesboro. I plan on being there pregame, hitting up Toots on Broad Street, like I've mentioned on social media, and then hopefully seeing you at the game. Hopefully I have a lot of friends wearing red with me, and I wish you the best of luck this Saturday.
The Toots takeover. Beware, Blue Raider fans. The Toots takeover might be coming, but we'll see.
It's happening. Appreciate you, Jake. Have a good night.
Absolutely appreciate you, Stephen.
Really, really good stuff from Jake. Really appreciate him coming on and sharing a lot of information with us and with our listeners about what to expect from this team. They've got several new faces and are actually healthy this year compared to the team and the results that they had last year, which saw them kind of middle of the pack and just not winning as many games as they would have liked to. Nick McDevitt has turned a little bit of a corner this year. Obviously, we hope to stop that winning waves for at least one game this coming Saturday for this rivalry game. But really looking forward to it. And like I said, I really appreciate Jake and everything he does over there at the Blue Raider podcast, and for joining us, and then also for allowing me to join him as well to preview the game on his episode as well. So Tyler, let's jump in. We've got to talk about some keys to victory. What's your first key that Western Kentucky has to do to get this victory in Murfreesboro?
My first one's going to be to defend the paint. We definitely can't allow their bigs to just go down there and score at will, or for them to be able to drive in, cut, get to the rim and score. And definitely don't allow the and ones. If you're going to foul someone when they're going up for a shot, make sure that ball does not get over the lip of the rim. That's what I was always taught, and that's what I tried to do. If I was going to have to foul somebody, that ball was not going to be able to go in or even have a chance. But yeah, if we want to win, we got to defend the paint.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the rebounding margin. I think we have to keep that close and competitive, and we're going to be at a big disadvantage with the big boy Esau Mustafa that we talked about there in the interview and before the interview. 8.8 rebounds per game, one of the best in conference. Then also they have Chris Luth that comes off the bench, is 6'11", big guy, big redhead guy. You can't miss him. He was a freshman last year. He's coming back sophomore year. I'm sure he's filled out a little bit, probably getting a little bit more playing time. We're going to be at a disadvantage size-wise in this game. But like we've said multiple times, rebounding is an effort and hustle stat. And if we can keep that close or competitive, we definitely will give ourselves a better shot to steal this victory. What's your second key to victory?
Be aggressive and get to the free throw line. We've had great luck with winning games whenever we was able to get to the free throw line more than we allowed the other team to get to. And I feel like if we keep that up, we definitely get the extra points.
I swear we do not share notes we share notes for the episode. We don't share notes for these keys to victories, MVT score prediction. My second one is also be aggressive, and more specifically, I want our guards driving into the chest of those big boys. Who's ever in the paint clogging it up, I want them driving into the chest and getting those boys in foul trouble. You're not outmatched and outsized if those guys pick up 2 quick fouls and go to the bench. Yeah, then bring in Chris Luth, the sophomore that, I think he was averaging a foul per minute when he played last year. Drive it as chess, make him extend an arm down and foul you. Flop a little bit if you have to. I want us to be aggressive, get their bigs in foul trouble, even the playing field a little bit, get one or both of them onto the bench, and then see what happens. I think but it starts with being aggressive. If we just sit back and we shoot 43s like Kennesaw just did, you better hope you're making a bunch of them or it's going to be a long night. What's your third key to victory?
Limit turnovers. Some games this season we've been pretty loose with the ball, and it's came back and bit us in the rear end more times than it has not. So definitely we got to limit those and definitely be careful with it.
My third key to victory is going to be efficient at the free throw line. We have seen games, namely the Liberty game most recently, where we shot close to 50% for the games, and now we've seen a couple games where we shot 70+%. I think we need to be on that north side of 70 for what could be a tight, close ball game. Down to the end of the game. When you're getting fouled, you're in the bonus and double bonus. You want to be making those free throws. Those are free throws, and that's what they're called for a reason. They should probably be called uncontested 15-foot shots, but they are free throws, and I expect Division I athletes to make 70+% of those, and I think that needs to be a positive for us. If we get to the free throw line, we have to make them. Every point is going to be crucial, and yeah, Tyler, who is going to be your MVT, most valuable topper, versus Middle Tennessee?
Ooh, I feel like this one's going to be Don McHenry. Whenever he's playing good, and he gets point, and we have other guys chipping in double-digit points. I feel like that's a great recipe for us to win the game.
A lot of different options to go with this. We've seen Don and Julius lead the way a lot of the season. We've seen Enoch come on strong here lately. But I really think my MVT for this game is going to be the guy we saw kind of coming out, like I said earlier in the recap, Tyrone Marshall. I think the Tyrone Marshall that we saw last game, the Tyrone Marshall that we saw against Marquette in the NCAA tournament last year, that guy can be an X factor and can be a mismatch nightmare. Can be one of those aggressive guys driving and getting those bigs in foul trouble. He can absorb that contact and go through it, finish it, and get to the free throw line. He is somebody that, I expect Don and Julius and Enoch and Christian. I expect those guys to get theirs. They're good shooters. You leave them open, I suspect they're going to make some shots. But Tyrone is one of those. Even if he's not open, he can take you to the hole. And then if you give him too much space and you don't want him to get to the hole, he can also step out and make some threes. I think he was 3 out of 6 last game against Kennesaw State. So he's so versatile. He's such an X factor in my opinion. And I think getting more from him, not only in this game, but every game down the stretch of the conference season is going to be vital for this team's success, especially until Baba comes back. I think it has to be Tyrone Marshall as my MVP in this road matchup. What have you got for me, Tyler, for a score prediction versus Middle Tennessee?
All right, and you mentioned it earlier. I feel like it's going to be a close one. Tops win it 75-71. I don't know what the line is. I don't know what the spread is. Over and under, don't know. It ain't came out yet, but Tops win 75-71.
Man, I'm having a hard time. I really, it's tough for me to say we're going to go down there and win. It's going to be really tough for us to win. I won't be surprised if we're a 6 or 7, 6.5 point underdog whenever the Vegas line does come out. The ESPN matchup predictor is pretty heavily weighted to Middle Tennessee, but I can't take these red glasses off. I can't do it. I think Western Kentucky stuns them and gets revenge for the technical that wasn't last year. I think we see an 82-81 Hilltopper victory in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and come back to Bowling Green with that 100 Miles of Hate crown. And I'm ready for it. It should be a fun match. And if we win, I'm going back to Tooth. We going to go, I'm getting up on the bar. We getting wild. Probably not, but it should be a good time and a good trip nonetheless, man. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope that Western Kentucky fans travel well. We normally have a pretty good number that go down. I'm hoping, that Topper takeover at the Toots is spread out there enough on social media, via Twitter. I'll put it out on Instagram multiple times the next couple of days, and also on Facebook, to try to get people to come out and just wear red, be loud, take over their, one of their favorite sports bars there in Murfreesboro. Looking forward to getting to see some live basketball, since I did miss this last homestand due to an illness and then due to a volleyball tournament on Saturday when I was in Elizabethtown. So looking forward to getting to see the Hilltoppers in action. Unfortunately, it's going to be in that glass house Murphy Center, which I'm not very fond of. I like their basketball court. I'll give them that. I like the court. It's not bad. Everything else I'm not a big fan of, especially OG sitting to our left, lying about Jared Coleman Jones making 4 threes the last time we played him there in Murfreesboro. I'm going to try to find OG when we go sit again. He was kind of in that corner section. I know you remember where he was. Look for me, OG. I'm gonna find you. I'm gonna say Jared ain't here this year, but who can do it this year? But man, I'm really looking forward to this game. Hopefully recapping a big victory. And it should be fun. Really looking forward to it. Tyler, hit us with your final words and take us on out of here.
Sitting here looking at some of these common games that we have had with MTSU, like Murray State, Lipscomb. I feel like there was another one.
UAB.
Now, granted, that game did not go in our favor. But, I mean, we beat Murray State at home. We beat Lipscomb at home. They lost to Murray State at home 88-67. They lost to Lipscomb at home. Or, no, they beat Lipscomb 67-65. So, that was a really close game for them. I mean, Kennesaw State, they beat them 84-79. So, they only beat them by 5 points. We blew Kennesaw State out of the water at home. Now, granted, that was on the second leg of that trip, and the second day is always the hardest. But I do feel confident about this team. MTSU, they can be beaten. Trust me. After dominating them last year during conference tournament by 41 points. I'm not scared of them at all. But you're right that arena is garbage. The walking around concourse, the people in there working are nice, but the concourse just looks like it could be a homeless encampment when basketball games ain't going on, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was. But yeah, I mean, dang it, dropped my pen. But yeah, everyone does need to at least go down there and see it for yourselves. Cheer on the Tops while you're there. Boo the Raiders. Why not? It's something fun to do. Because I seriously do hate them. If that university shut down tomorrow, I would not lose a wink of sleep. But yeah, with that being said, who has it better than us, Moff?
Nobody, buddy. You know it.
Go Tops, beat Middle.
Go Tops. Later, guys.
See you.